How's it going, YouTube? Tyler the Hotshot Hauler here. Gonna be bringing a how-to video to you guys about how to properly secure a vehicle to a trailer. Reason why I wanted to make this video is I know there's a common misconception out there about how you have to use chains to secure vehicles. Well, that's no longer the case. Nowadays, the way to do it properly is with wheel straps. Standard wheel straps are 2 inches thick. And they have a working load limit of 3,333 pounds. So if you take that times 4, that's going to be like 13,332 pounds or something like that. And that's plenty of securement for a vehicle. I think my wife's car here, I think it only weighs, like 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. So let's get started. I'm going to be going over 2 different methods for you and why you may want to use one over the other or when. I also have 2 different styles of buckle. This is the standard style of buckle that usually comes with wheel straps. And then you can also use a method like this, and I will show you why that may or may not be better, depending on your circumstance. So let's get started. I'm going to show you the most common method, and this is the method that you will see on most demonstration videos. This is not my preferred method for 2 reasons. One, I've had too many instances where the straps will roll on the tires, and literally sometimes they will come off. I've also had times where the vehicle shifts a lot. So if you have other cargo on board, or if you have another vehicle, you have to be very cognizant, because shifting, the body of the vehicle is moving back and forth along with the wheels a little bit. It can damage it. It can hit something. So that's kind of the 2 reasons why I try to avoid this method, unless if I have to. It does work though. Let's get started with the most common method here of how to do it. So to do this, it's pretty simple. You just want to wrap the strap around, feed it through itself. Make sure your strap is not twisted, and you're going to be fighting with this for a while. Now, when you do this, you also got to be careful when you run this strap behind, because there is brake lines and stuff like that back there, and if you damage one of those, or if you damage them, you're going to have a bad day. So you got to be careful and cognizant, especially up in the front axle, because there's a lot of stuff up there. You also run the chance of damaging your straps, which I've done that before on a piece of suspension like an idiot. So now you want to have this at about the 10 and 2 o'clock spot. It doesn't have to be perfect. But basically, you want to make sure that this ring is as close to the center as possible, and that the outer straps are above the 3 and 9 o'clock position. Like I said earlier, one of my complaints with this is as the vehicle shifts, sometimes these straps will actually roll, and they'll shift, and eventually you'll have one up here, and this one will be down here. So that's why I don't like to use this method due to that. Also, a thing I forgot to add about this method is, when you secure the wheel, all this force is pulling down. So you're pulling on the top of your wheel here, and you're pulling it like this. So you got to be careful, because you can damage suspension components behind the wheel. So it's just like with anything, you have to be careful and cognizant what you're doing. Yeah, I try to avoid this method at all costs, but it does work. So I am going to show it to you because it does work, and this is what I used to do. So when you do this, you want to have your strap as choked as possible to the center, which I am clearly struggling right now. So, and you want to have it as close to the rim as possible. You just want to crank. Now, when I would do this, if I were to do all 4, I would go around and just get them all a little snug, and then I would come back and crank them. Now, this is actually, in my opinion, I don't like how tight this is sitting, and you can tell that it's pulling harder on this side versus this side. And that method does work, but I don't like it. my preferred method of doing this, of how to secure a vehicle with straps. But before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about some reasons why you don't want to use chains to secure vehicles, and if you have to, how you need to use chains. So first and foremost, the biggest reason why you don't want to use chains is simply because where you have to hook chains, it's really hard to get them, especially on cars like this, and on a lot of new cars, it's tough to get them hooked to the axle or to a spot that is underneath the suspension. So the reason why I say that is because a lot of guys, when they hook up, especially when they load trucks, they just grab chains and they hook it to like the hitch mount and they hook it to like the toe rings. Well, yeah, that's great if you're going short distance. It's not a big deal. It's quick and it's whatever. You don't care if it's not your vehicle. But here's something that you have to think about. When you crank down on that, you are strapping the body of the vehicle, not the wheels. So you're pulling all this force down, and it's compressing the suspension, and it's not allowing the suspension of the vehicle to move properly on the trailer. So when you do this with wheel straps, the vehicle suspension still moves, the body still bounces. That's what you want. You want the vehicle to use its own suspension. If you take it away its ability to use that suspension, not only are you putting pressure on that suspension that you're pulling down and you're disengaging, but you're also putting all that impact is going into the suspension and into the vehicle, and it's not able to absorb its own impacts. So you can damage the vehicle. You can blow shocks. You can damage. The biggest thing you're probably going to do is you're possibly going to blow shocks, and it does happen. For example, if you ride dirt bikes, or if you've ridden dirt bikes in the past, you know that when you secure them in a trailer or in a truck bed, when you secure the handlebars and you put your straps to pull down, you have to be cognizant of how much force you put down before you secure the handlebars, because you don't want to put too much force on those shocks because you can blow the seals on them. It's the same concept. You have to have it enough to keep it where it's tense, where it has tension, but not too much to where you damage the suspension. And that's one of the big reasons. That is the biggest reason why you don't want to use chains, is because you do not want to damage the vehicle. Yes, you're still going to get it from A to B with chains, but you have the potential to damage the suspension. And on newer vehicles, even trying to get to the axles is difficult to find places to run chains, because nowadays there's so many brake sensors, electronics, all this stuff that old cars didn't used to have in the old days when people used to use chains for everything. Just be aware of that. I mean, when I first started hot shodding, my very first load was an F-150. I didn't have wheel straps, and I used chains, and I literally had to take a 10mm socket, and I had to unscrew a bracket holding a brake line so I could secure the rear axle. And yeah, just don't do that. You use wheel straps. And yeah, let's get started with the method that I like. So this method, the reason why I like it so much is because it works well for vehicles and trailers especially. I transport a ton of trailers, and to keep them from moving back and forth, this method works so well. So let's get started. So when you do this, you're going to want to run your D-ring from the inside out. Okay. Now, you want to pull your slack in through your D-ring, and you want to have this about here. Okay, well, here's something that I want to talk about immediately right now. Here's your valve stem. And this is something where you got to be very, very, very careful with this method. With this method, I would probably still strap it due to the fact that I have clearance. And it's my own vehicle, so if I damage it, it is what it is. But if this were to be somebody's cargo, I would not do this method. I would do the other method that I don't like for this wheel, or I would do the straps backwards. So I would pull this wheel that way and the back wheel forward. I've had to do that before because I like this method so much more. But you do not want to strap near the valve stem. Just don't do it, because if this vehicle shifts, this strap it will break that valve stem, and it'll flatten the tire, and it can damage the sensor inside, and those are not cheap. And you just do not want to play with this method if you have the strap on the valve stem. If anything, move the vehicle, get back up, unhook your, verify first that all your straps are going to be okay where you put them if you can. And then if you can't, move the vehicle to get it to where you're not going to put yourself in a predicament like this. This is the only thing with this method you have to be cognizant of, is that. Okay, but I am going to leave the strap there for the demonstration purposes because it's there for the video. So now you would run this. All right, so I got this secured. You can see how it's pulling front. It's coming up here. I try to run these as far as possible out that you can, because you want to get the best frontward pull versus sideways. So the longer you can run it, the more it's going to pull forward versus to the side. So granted, if I wanted to, I could pull this all the way up to here, but I didn't. I just did it to here. So now here is the one thing about this method where my other ratchet comes into play. If you look off the side of the trailer, the ratchet is hanging off, okay? Now, technically, DOT, depending if you get an inspection, may or may not like that. And let me tell you, it is easier to not set yourself up for a problem. So if I ever do it like this, depending how the strap goes, because not always will it hang off the trailer. It just depends on the angle and such like that. But for this instance, I would switch to my other ratchet because I don't like stuff to hang off the trailer or my tie downs unless I absolutely have to, because I just do not want to have a problem that I don't want to deal with. So if you come back here, I've just already lightly secured this. So now you can see from afar, I've got one pulling on the front and one pulling on the back. Granted, I've only done the straps on this side for demonstration purposes, but you would want to use 4 straps, one on each wheel. So, in the beginning of the video, I showed you this ratchet. It is just a regular 2-inch ratchet with a chain end. This is exactly why I have these. I have them for these wheel straps for this exact reason, to keep all of my tie downs inside the width of the trailer. Also, if you ever have to secure stuff on mega ramps and you have to run straps down to like here or even here, to either of these places, the chain will take the beating and not the strap. And that's what's so important, is trying to keep your equipment alive. So guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to throw them in the comments section. If you wouldn't mind shooting me a subscribe, that would be great. Going to be bringing lots of how-to videos in the near future, because I want to make videos to help people out there who have maybe made, to prevent people from making mistakes like what I did, to learn hard lessons. But for example, like if this were a real vehicle that I was actually transporting, I would actually move the vehicle forward a little bit, and I would have run this strap through this rung about right here. The strap's sitting a little bit lower than I would have liked, and I would have made sure it went through where there wasn't a wheel sensor. But in the event that I couldn't have done that, let's just say that the wheel sensors lined up to where I was getting screwed anyway, I would have actually run this strap back to here, to this side, and I would have pulled this one, the rear wheel, forward. And you can do that as well. But that's why I love this method, because it's so versatile and it really holds the vehicle so much stabler in place than the wraparound basket method that everyone else tries to show you. So once again, guys, thank you for watching, and have a good one. Thank you.